Hi everyone, we are looking at market failure again, externalities, this time positive externalities. We know what externalities are. They're the positive or harmful effects on a third party when a good or service is consumed or produced. We're going to break that down further for positive externalities. Here is me receiving education, right? I've got the mortarboard, that's what you wear at graduation, right? So that's me getting education. This represents positive consumption externalities because there are positive effects on third parties that arise when I consume education, when anyone consumes education. So consumption externality, positive effects on third parties when a good or service is consumed. Now, of course, I get private benefits when I get an education, right? I get increased productivity from my increased skills and knowledge, and therefore I get increased earnings more likely, right? That's why I get education. However, there are also external benefits to third parties, so not me. So they get the benefits of my skills and experience, my knowledge, so they get increased productivity as well. That benefits other people who aren't me, right? We're going to look at that on a diagram. So we've got our private and external benefits listed here. That's a picture of me again. Now, the marginal social benefits are higher than the benefits to me because of those external benefits. So there's our external benefits, and that is the externality here. Now, there is also some allocative inefficiency happening here. This is a market failure because I only care about myself. When I choose to get educated, I'm not bothered about other people. I just want what's best for me. So I look at my costs, my benefits, and I make a decision. So I will consume at this point, Q3. However, at this quantity of education, society benefits, the marginal social benefits are up here, and marginal social cost is down here. So the benefits are greater than the cost. Now that sounds like it's a good thing. It is still allocative inefficiency though, because if I consumed more, if I consumed one extra unit of education, let's say an extra semester of education, then society gets more benefit than cost. If I consume one more, again, society gets more benefit than cost. So in society's view, I should be consuming more education. That would be ideal. That would be allocatively efficient. So until I get to this point of consumption, I'm being allocatively inefficient from society's point of view. So therefore, this represents our welfare loss. This is all the benefits that society is not getting because education is consumed at Q3 rather than Q opt. Right? So remember, this education, goes across the economy. Like there's huge amounts of people getting education for their own private benefits, but perhaps society would be better off if they did more of it. Okay, here we also have positive production externalities. Now these are relatively rare. So I'll give you just one example here. Firms training their employees. Why is this a market failure? This is because other firms receive the benefit of the training. Because when a firm will train its employees to be better, be more productive, good thing. However, they don't get the full benefit because those people will hop jobs, right? They will change jobs and their new employer will get the benefits of the training that you spent on them. So what happens here is that the costs to the employer, the marginal private costs, are greater than the costs to society because society gets this external benefit every time it's produced. But the firms don't get that. So the firms don't want to produce that much because it costs them money to train their employees. So they only want to produce training at Q3. Society, however, would like it to be at Q opt. Now what we can see here is that, again, we're allocatively inefficient. Marginal social benefits are greater than our marginal social costs. social benefits along this curve, social costs along this curve. So if we consumed more, we would get more. If we produced more, I should say, society would get more benefit. So they're missing out on all of these benefits in here. So that is why we call it our welfare loss, or alternatively our dead weight loss. Now we're going to go through this again, explaining an externality. It's pretty much the same as what we did in the negative externalities video. So firstly, we look at the external benefit, describe what the external benefit in the market is. Then, is it consumption or production? So does the externality arise from consuming something like education or producing something like training? So that tells us whether there is an MPC curve or an MPB curve. We need to refer to where the optimal quantity is. So the optimum quantity is always where marginal social costs equal marginal social benefits. Then we explain the free market quantity. So the free market quantity is where it would be produced or consumed without any government involvement. So where marginal private costs equal marginal private benefits. Then we look at the allocation of resources. So there's a misallocation. There's either, in the case of a positive externality, there is always an under allocation of resources. We saw it in the training, we saw it in education. And the welfare loss. So the welfare loss is the shaded area on the diagram. Okay, so here's our worked example with education. So productivity gains from increased education benefit future employees and increase the nation's prosperity. So our third parties, future employers and the nation, therefore productivity gains, external benefit. We're describing that. These external benefits arise from consuming education, right? Meaning marginal social benefits are greater than marginal private benefits. We can see that on the diagram. Society would want education consumed where marginal social benefits equal marginal social costs. That would be allocative efficiency, Q opt. However, consumers act towards their own marginal private costs and marginal private benefits, so consumption occurs at Q free, where those two curves intersect. This leads to an under allocation of resources to education, as Q opt is greater than Q free. And the misallocation of resources is represented by the shaded area of welfare loss. So pretty involved process here to explain a market failure. It's difficult. We'll do plenty of work on it. Now, responses to positive externality. What can the government do to fix these? So there are two main ways. The first main way is to shift demand to the right. So for example, information campaigns to try to increase demand. So what the government could do in terms of education is they could highlight the benefits to people of, private benefits to people of getting education, so people do it more, right? Advertising, very, very similar idea there. And legislation and regulation. So think about, for example, the laws that make you stay in school until you're 17, right? That increases the amount of education in society. And that increases the demand for education. So it looks like that. So we get this increase in demand, and now we've got where consumption actually takes place is where MPB, we've got a new MPB curve here, intersects with MPC. So that happens at QGov. So therefore, what happens is that reduces the amount of welfare loss. So we only get that smaller triangle now. Okay, we'll get rid of that. Now we will look at shifting the supply curve to the right. This will also help to solve the market failure. A couple of ways we can do this. We can give subsidies to firms so that they can provide more education and people can consume more of it. And it lowers we know that a subsidy will lower the cost of education. So therefore, law of demand, more people will want it. And the government can directly provide things like education. So think of public schools, for example. People can get an education at a very minimal cost. So let's look at what this does. we get a new supply curve. So that shifts the MPC, MSC curve over to the right. And we get our new equilibrium where the MPB equals the MPC, the demand equals the supply. And again, what we will see is a reduced welfare loss as a result. Okay, so these diagrams, these explanations, they are tough. This is one of the more difficult parts of the course. We will have plenty of practice at this to make sure we get it right. Okay, thank you.